Bolt fam, today has that special energy. There's movement in the backfield, a veteran tight end suddenly on the market, a defense sending a loud message to the NFL, and national voices finally starting to respect this team in the middle of a real Harbaugh ball season. We're talking roster decisions, physical battles on the field, and a clear statement to the rest of the AFC West. You're not going to believe what we've got today, so get comfy, drop a like, and let's dive in. Let's start with the backfield, because that room quietly says a lot about where this team is headed. While most people were talking only about the defense, the Chargers went back to a name they know and trust. Jarrett Patterson, re-signed to the practice squad. On the surface, it looks like a depth move. But when a staff keeps circling back to the same running back, it usually means they see real value there. Patterson is not just another guy. At Buffalo, he basically was the offense. MAC Offensive Player of the Year, first-team All-MAC, a volume back who lived between the tackles. That profile matters in a Harbaugh and Greg Roman system that wants physical runners who don't blink in traffic. It's no accident he's bounced around but keeps landing in locker rooms that value toughness and reliability. You don't stick around this long if coaches don't trust you. Now look at the practice squad around him. You've got offensive line depth with Branson Taylor and Foster Sarell, and physical backs like Amar Johnson and Royce Freeman in the mix. Add Patterson back into that puzzle, and the message is obvious. This team wants options to keep the run game alive in December and January, when bodies are sore and games are decided by who controls the clock. In 2025, Patterson has already appeared in 4 games, with 32 carries for 129 yards and a touchdown. Nothing flashy, but exactly the type of steady production that lets a staff call his number without hesitation. He protects the ball, hits his reads, and helps the offense stay on schedule. With a patched-up offensive line and Justin Herbert taking more hits than anyone likes, having a back you can trust on short yardage, red zone snaps, and drive-sustaining runs is a huge deal. More than anything, bringing Patterson back shows the long view. Harbaugh and Roman don't want to live or die with one name in the backfield. They want a committee that fits the identity, physical, disciplined, ready to step up from the practice squad the moment an injury or matchup calls for it. And if Patterson keeps delivering when his number is called, don't be surprised if he becomes that quiet December difference maker, the guy helping close out games while the spotlight stays on Herbert and the defense. While that backfield takes shape, there's another position flashing bright on the radar: tight end. The market just sent out a notification in bold letters when the Lions waived Ross Dwelley. Veteran, experienced in physical schemes, available at low cost in the exact week the Chargers are juggling depth at the position. You don't have to be in the building to see the fit on paper. Dwelley is never going to lead the league in catches, and nobody is drafting him high in fantasy, but that's not the point. He's the type of tight end that coaches who love physical football quietly circle. He can play inline, work as an H-back, function in 12 personnel, and, most importantly, do his job without blowing up the play. In a Harbaugh ball world, that matters as much as stats. His situation is clear. Waived on December 9th, going through waivers, and if no team claims him, he's a free agent. Meanwhile, the Chargers' tight end room has been in motion. Tucker Fisk on injured reserve, Tyler Conklin bouncing between active and inactive, Will Dissly's role shifting week to week. That doesn't look like a staff completely comfortable with its depth. Dwelley, at 30, brings exactly what that room is missing: stability and familiarity with heavy run-first football. He's played in physical run-heavy attacks under Kyle Shanahan, understands zone concepts, and can protect the edge on bootlegs and play action. He's not a headline move, but he's the type of signing that makes life easier for Herbert, for the offensive line, and for Greg Roman's playbook. The most realistic path is simple. You bring him to Costa Mesa for a workout. If he looks right, you sign him to a short deal for the rest of the season with a defined role. Heavy sets, protection in obvious passing downs, and instant special teams help. 3rd and 2 at SoFi Stadium, heavy personnel on the field, Dwelley seals the edge, the back finds a crease, the drive stays alive. It doesn't make the highlight reel, but it can be the difference between punting and putting points on the board. That's why a move like this would scream Harbaugh ball. Physical, quiet, efficient. The kind of signing that doesn't explode on social media but keeps a playoff push on track. And the crazy part is, even with these roster angles, the biggest message of the week came from what happened under the Monday night lights. Bolt fam. We need to talk about that win over the Eagles, because it was messy, painful, and absolutely revealing. Offensively, it was brutal to watch at times. The offensive line was banged up, the interior kept leaking pressure, and Herbert was getting hit from every direction. 7 sacks, a shaky stat line, stalled drives, and visible frustration. That usually equals a loss in the NFL, but not this time. Because the defense decided the season wasn't going to slip away on national television. Forcing 5 turnovers at this level is never just luck. That takes preparation, discipline, and a unit that believes it can take the ball away when the game is on the line. They got after Jalen Hurts, clogged up the run game enough to force long yardage spots, and kept the coverage tight in the back end. The final exclamation point was Tony Jefferson's interception in overtime near the goal line. One play that instantly felt like a snapshot of what this defense wants to be. Aggressive, opportunistic, and refusing to break, even after being on the field a ton. You watch that moment, and you don't just see a pick. You see a group that decided it was done watching winnable games slip away. That's the heart of it. This Chargers defense has finally found an identity. It's not perfect, it's not loaded with depth at every spot, but it is resilient. We saw the signs against the Steelers, holding them to just 10 points. We saw it again against an Eagles team that, on paper, should have put up a lot more. When you start stacking games like that, it stops being a fluke and starts becoming who you are. Herbert, even under siege, is still dragging something close to 20 points per game out of this offense. When you pair that with a defense that is holding playoff offenses down, you suddenly have a formula that can work in January. Win ugly, lean on the pass rush and secondary, trust your quarterback and your kicker to do just enough on the scoreboard. And that brings us to how the rest of the league is reacting. A week ago, after the blowout over the Raiders, the talk was full of disclaimers. It's just the Raiders. Herbert's hurt. The Chargers don't scare anyone. The power rankings barely moved. But beating the defending Super Bowl champions on Monday Night Football? That's different. The Athletic bumped the Chargers from 15th to 11th. NFL.com's Eric Edholm moved them up to 12th, even sliding them ahead of the Eagles. Suddenly, the national narrative isn't cute little run. It's, this might be a problem in the playoff picture. Cameron Dicker going 5 for 5 on field goals, drilling the kick that forced overtime and the one that should have ended it, only reinforces the image of a team that's finally closing games instead of finding new ways to lose them. Put it all together and the picture is clear. The Chargers have now won 5 of their last 6. They've done it with a broken offensive line, a beat-up quarterback, an inconsistent run game, and an offense that rarely looks smooth, and they're still stacking wins. That's the kind of stretch that hardens a locker room and gives a roster real belief that it can go into a playoff atmosphere and not blink. And now, everything points to Arrowhead. The final exam. A chance to sweep Patrick Mahomes and flip the AFC West narrative on its head. If they go into that stadium with this style of football and walk out with another win, the way people talk about the Los Angeles Chargers across the league will change overnight. Bolt fam, after a day like this, it's hard not to feel like something special is taking shape. Patterson coming back to fuel the ground game, Ross Dwelley sitting out there as a perfect fit for a thin tight end room, a defense that just found its soul in front of the whole country, and national analysts finally moving this team up instead of holding them down. So I'll throw it back to you. Is this stretch just the beginning? Are we watching the birth of a team nobody wants to see in January? Because if this defense keeps playing at this level, if Herbert keeps finding ways to keep the offense breathing, and if every new piece keeps fitting into this Harbaugh ball blueprint, no one is going to be excited about facing the Chargers in a playoff game. No one. Now I want to hear from you. Which of these stories hits you the hardest as a fan? The added depth in the backfield? The possibility of a disciplined veteran tight end walking through the door? The defense putting on a show? or the respect finally coming back from the rest of the NFL? Sound off in the comments. I'll be down there reading and responding. And of course, don't forget to drop a like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications because tomorrow we're back with more breakdowns, more behind-the-scenes talk, and more emotion as we follow this Chargers journey toward January.